What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Bass Lane Podcast. I'm your host, if I'm even allowed to call myself that. I'm only 17, but I'm Presley Lanham. We're joined today by special guest Jake Maddux. He is from Alabama. He fished for Auburn University, and he's now fishing the Bassmaster Opens, trying to qualify for the elites. We're super excited to talk with him today. He's full of information. He's learning the industry, and he's just a good guy. I've known him for a couple months now. We met him at a fishing show here in Lebanon, and we're gonna actually get him on right quick. What's up, Jake? What's up?
Jinx.
How's it going, man?
Good, man. Just back in Atlanta now. So just moved over here, or starting to move over here. Still in Alabama a good bit. Was there today. So
yeah,
back here tonight.
Braving the storms.
Braving the storms, wishing I was catching bass. So
oh yeah, always,
no doubt.
Is there even any lakes around where you're at?
Yeah, so we got Lake Lanier 30 minutes away.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. So you're set then.
I got spoiled on spotted bass growing up. That's the primary thing that I fished for when I was growing up, cutting my teeth for fishing. Everyone thinks of me as a braided line grass guy, but I learned how to catch big spotted bass at home, and top water and, light line spinner rod stuff was kind of my deal. So glad to live on Lake Lanier now, live close, and actually have some the lake that I grew up on, Lake Martin, has kind of gone downhill, and Lake Lanier is going up. So it's good to kind of have a place where I can go learn how to scope, learn how to do whatever, and legit catch, 5 to 6.5 pound spots, is a very regular thing out here. So
that's awesome, dude. We got back from Hartwell. It's just like I'm addicted to the spotted bass fishing. It's so much fun. Like those things are the perfect mix between largemouth and smallmouth. They're like so aggressive, but sometimes they act like smallmouth, sometimes they act like largemouth. They're just fun fish for sure.
No doubt.
So you grew up on Lake Martin?
I did, yeah. So Lake Martin, and then I grew up in Birmingham, but our parents had a lake house on Lake Martin, so that's where I really cut my teeth fishing.
I gotcha.
Pretty much spent my entire time before tournament fishing on Lake Martin, just learning how to do that. And it had blueback herring in it for a little while. It still does now, but the population's down, so it's not really what you consider a blueback lake now. But growing up in high school, it was a blueback lake, and then you also were able to, get up on the bank, throw a frog around, skip around boat docks, fish boat docks, that kind of stuff. Pine trees, that kind of West Georgia, East Alabama, kind of like clearish water with the red clay, that kind of lake. So it's pretty cool. And then Lake Eufaula was only an hour and a half from that. So the cool thing about Alabama is just the biodiversity of the state. You have Gunnersville, Pickwick, Smith Lake. You have Tennessee River ledge fishing. You got grass fishing. You got blueback herring lake. You got Smith Lake, Lake Martin. You got whole Coosa River. You learn how to fish current, dirty water, clean water, tidal fishing even. The whole state has so much biodiversity to where you can really learn how to fish every type of fishery except for, big, giant, smallmouth.
Definitely.
So.
Oh, yeah. What chain is Lake Martin on?
Tallapoosa River. So whenever I went to college, I started focusing in more on the Chattahoochee River. So that's where I really fished. Really grew up fishing the Tallapoosa and the Chattahoochee. A little bit on the Coosa. It was really close, but I kind of, for whatever reason, I was addicted to clear water. I'm more of a clear water guy when I can be, even though I do like to fish grass and that kind of stuff. I tend to lean towards clear water, and the Chattahoochee, you got Lake Eufaula, you got a lot of grass down there and a lot of ledges. Above that's West Point, and then Lanier. So, and then below that's Seminole. So, just that whole chain.
How was Martin changed since you were kids? It got better or worse, or not really either?
When I was little, it was considered the Dead Sea. Like there was nothing in there. Like no, you never. Trying to think of a lake to compare it to. 8 pounds wins tournaments. Like not much weight at all. And then we started to get the introduction of blueback herring from the striper guys, and then it got really, really good and learned how to fish offshore that way. Felt comfortable fishing in deep water. it was not uncommon to literally see them schooling in 70 or 80 foot of water. I've caught the deepest fish I've ever caught was 83 feet on the bottom on a drop shot on
That's wild.
the day. Like it's they get deep out there, and it's clear-ish water. And so now that it had the bluebacks, it got really good. And then we had a big fish kill where a lot of our blueback herring and our striper died. And then the cool thing about Martin is it always had some big spots. Another forage in there is yellow perch. For whatever reason, they stock yellow perch in the lake. So it's like weird that it's a and like where Martin is, it's like as far south as blueback herring can like really effectively be, because like you go 20 miles south of me and you start seeing alligators. Like it's south, for whatever reason, it's that line right. That's the part I was saying about Alabama. It's like so biodiverse. You can go 20, 35 miles and it'd be a completely different system, look completely different. And that's kind of what made me the fisherman I am now. So, but now that it's changed, there's not as many herring in the lake. It's gone back to more of a, not just a like bank beating lake, but more of like brush out in front of like boat docks and brush that's, I would say 20 foot and shallower. So,
not like a Hartwell or
not like a Hartwell where it's a pile and 40, nothing like that. So
I got you. So, so the striper guys put the herring in, or how did they?
Yeah, they were just kind of like they saw how good Lanier is, how good Hartwell was, because Lanier is only 2 hours from Martin, so it's
not a bad drive.
They have big giant stripers at Lanier, so the guys just it's easy bait fish. You can go and buy it at the store over there. So they just started bringing herring over, and then you started seeing them. I remember my freshman year of high school is when I saw the first blueback herring floating. I didn't know what it was. I looked it up on Google and figured out what it was. And then that was before live scope and anything like that. And the biggest thing that me and my brother figured out was you could just go run to like any of the shallow water buoys and just chunk a topwater as fast as you could. And that was the best way to catch those spots when we didn't really know what we were doing. But that's kind of like what helped us get on the right pace as far as that kind of stuff. So
yeah, for sure. So you grew up in Alabama around Lake Martin. What other lakes? You fished high school, right?
I did, yeah.
So what other lakes did you guys hit?
Yeah, we hit Gunners. I don't remember doing anything on Pickwick, really, but I know we did Gunnersville. We did one time at Wheeler. We did Gunnersville a lot. And then we did Smith Lake a lot, Lay Lake, Logan Martin, Mitchell, Jordan, the entire Coosa River except for Weiss. We never really went to Weiss. We went to the Mobile Bay, which is South Alabama, tidal fishery. That was a really cool place.
See, I didn't know Alabama had any tidal water.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's like you got that last little bit of panhandle right there, Pensacola, Mobile, that whole area. So basically the Coosa River and Tallapoosa River make the Alabama, and Alabama flows all the way down to the Gulf. So it kind of opens up. It's like a huge, giant delta. It's pretty cool when you can catch a redfish and a bass on the chatterbait in the same back-to-back casts. It's pretty cool. So
dude, that's sweet.
Yeah, bass is kind of stunted as far as growth goes, but it's
for sure.
a cool place.
That's cool. Yes, Alabama's got everything.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do you think that's why you see so many good fishermen come from Alabama?
I think it is because I can watch a Bassmaster Elite, and like I remember watching the Red River tournament when Chris Lane won, and then like I took my grandma took us to Academy. We're like, can we get some ugly otters? Like, because we wanted to go learn how to flip, and then like we had those, even just the ponds, like you could go up and learn how to flip, and then like once you get a little older, you start fishing tournaments and stuff. You see another guy win on top water, and you're like, okay, I want to go learn how to throw top water. You can just do so much stuff in Alabama.
Yeah.
Within where I lived in Birmingham, grew up in Birmingham, was Birmingham, and within an hour and a half, I could be to probably 20 different lakes. So,
yeah, that's awesome. What do you think about Smith Lake?
So it's a good lake. I've got a love-hate relationship with that place. I've had a lot of tournaments out there. I've had some really good practices out there, but not so great tournaments. It's funny because I love the spotted bass stuff, but every time I'm there, really try to catch largemouth for whatever reason, and that's like the lake that I learned how to. One of my favorite baits for a long, like just in general, is a swim bait. And so when I was in high school, we learned how to fish like a mag draft, and it was before it was like mag draft was cool, and like we would go out there and just obliterate them, like legit, like decrease the population of fish in there. Like we destroyed them.
That's awesome.
And it was, learn how to do that. I really like that lake, but it is a herring lake. It acts a little bit more different than Hartwell. There's not as much brush out there. It's more like fluffy, and they use a lot of the boat docks and the cables and run the up and down those bluff walls. So they act a little bit different, but it's still blueback herring at the end of the day. So cool. Well, then you got a lot of the buck brush and stuff. So it's kind of like you can pick your poison. That's what the cool thing about that place is you can do either or. You can completely ignore the bluebacks if you want, and just fish largemouth. So.
How do you differentiate between targeting the spots versus the largemouth?
It just depends. Like on Smith, like more of your largemouth are going to be kind of in that stained water in the backs of the places, and then sometimes you just target them with different baits and stuff. But some of the best on those lakes that have both kinds, like I've noticed this, especially like smallmouth and largemouth place or spotted bass and largemouth places. Some of the best places on the lake are the places that have both types of fish. So if you can kind of mix back and forth, and the cool thing is you can run one pocket with largemouth and then stop further out of that pocket and go throw a jerkbait on a main lake point and then run back in the back pocket and kind of do a little bit of both. That's kind of what I like to fish, is like you have multiple patterns going on, and you have a lot of rods on the deck. So that's kind of like what I like to fish. So.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of what we learned at Hartwell, fishing the cane piles. Like a lot of people were fishing the ones super far down lake, but we found some that had largemouth on them too, and largemouth seemed to be obviously a little bit bigger than the spots we were catching. So it's nice to have, if those largemouth show up, you can get right in a hurry. I mean, on day one, I think we caught our limit in like 10 casts over a cane pile and called out our first entire limit. It was crazy.
That's it.
I love those lakes. I've only been to Hartwell twice, and then I went to Smith Lake like the first year I started high school fishing.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't catch the 15-inch spots.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like that was the toughest. Like you can go down there and just absolutely wear your arm out, but we just couldn't catch the 15-inchers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is so you went to Southern Union College first?
I did, yeah.
Where's that at?
So it's in Auburn basically. So you have Auburn, Opelika. It's in Opelika. I lived in Auburn. It was kind of cool because they had a program called Path to the Plains. So you could go to Southern Union, and then depending on your degree, you could take classes at both. And so that was when I got to fish at Auburn. I was just able to do that program.
I got you
there. So that was pretty cool. But fished for them for a few years before that program was available. So I fished with Southern Union, I believe, 2 years. The thing about Southern Union is not many community colleges had fishing teams. So the fact that they had one was a big deal. So that was really cool. But we didn't really have as great funding to be able to go to a lot of these places. So the first 2 years of my college fishing career, I didn't really get to travel that much other than stuff that was in the Southeast. So I would go to Florida, I would go to Tennessee, I would go to Alabama and Georgia. So that was pretty much in South Carolina. So I was kind of limited to that, which saying that's limited is crazy because there's so much Great Lakes that I got to fish in that time frame. I got to go to Seminole, I got to go to Hartwell for the first time, stuff in Alabama too. So it was kind of cool to do that. And then Harris Chain, obviously, and we're going to go back there for the Open. So, a lot of that stuff was very valuable going down there. But
definitely,
really, the peak of my college fishing career was the year that I fished at Auburn. So
I got you.
So that was the year that we actually had the funding. We're able to go to the St. Lawrence River, go to, I don't even know, Saginaw Bay. Like, we fished all crazy places and got to travel and learn a lot. So
definitely, yeah. The Saginaw Bay tournament, we talked about this on the last podcast. Me and my dad crack up at that video of you and your brother. I mean, that was just so funny
to watch.
That
was me and my brother. We either caught them or we ripped each other's heads off. Like, there was no in between. There was no ever us finishing in 30th or 50th place. It was either really good or really, really bad. So
Yeah, I think that's how it is with most. So, like, I fished with my sister my senior year,
yeah.
and we got along pretty good. But um, some people, it's like, man, you wonder. It's like, man, do they really get along that well? They kind of seem like they hate each other.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
What was it like at Auburn? Did you?
So Auburn and the fishing team was really, really cool the way it was set up. So you had the five. Well, basically, the year I was there, like I will stand to it. The year that we were there, I guess it was 2021. I think that was the best year that Auburn ever had. Like, you had the Jordan Lees, you had all those guys. You had some really good fishermen, but the year that we were there, we had some of the best like guys that I know. Like we had Logan, we had Blake, Blake from out California, Blakeville, California. We had Chase Mudhane, we had Tucker, Tucker and Logan fished together. We had Garrett Warren, we had who Garrett fished with? Oh, Will Smith, not Will Smith, one of them. Will something, and then my brother, and then one other guy. So the top five were really, really stacked with some really good fishermen. And then we had over 100 guys on the team, which was crazy.
Really?
So because we had 100 guys on the team, this is like the best. Logan is a businessman, so he did really, really well as far as like sponsor wise for the team, getting set up and making our team a legit team, basically, to where we were very valuable to the sponsors. So that allowed us to actually go travel to these tournaments, that kind of stuff. But because we had so many guys on the team, if a team is, if a company's sending us product or whatever, we can't give it to 100 guys. So we were able to do fall qualifiers and make sure, who goes to what tournament and stuff. And it was pretty cool because we had 6 fall qualifiers. They were, honestly, these are the funnest tournament trail I ever fished was the Auburn qualifiers, because what we did was we had 20 plus lakes that were around 2 hours of Auburn, and we would draw them out of the hat the Wednesday before the weekend, and then you do no info and no practice until you get 1 day of practice on Saturday and tournament on Sunday. And they were some of the funnest places, and you didn't know where you're going to go till that week.
It's kind of like, that's awesome, like the MLF Cup series.
Yeah, so it was really cool. We got to go to like some really cool lakes just around Auburn. Got to learn a lot doing that. So we had like Alabama River that year, Lake Harding, which is like a little bitty lake on the Chattahoochee. Where else did we go? Alabama River. I don't know. We went to a bunch of places. Lake Martin. So
yeah, that's sick. So did Auburn, did they actually, was it student led, like, or did y'all have like a designated coach?
Student led. It was 100% student led. So that was the cool thing about it too, is we didn't have a coach like telling us, "Hey, I want you to fish with this guy" or whatever. And like only me, like no one can say, "Oh, those two guys are going to be good together." Like they've got to fish on their own together and kind of figure out themselves. And that was kind of the cool deal.
So do you think a college team would be better that has a coach, or does it kind of depend on the guys you have on the team and how good they are at, working that out together?
I think it's better to not have a coach personally, because it might be good to maybe have a guy help out when they need to, maybe, but like I don't think a coach was beneficial for us, just because it honestly pushed us to like be responsible, it actually helped us do whatever. And we were the ones that were interacting with the sponsors. And then now fast forward to, fishing the opens, some of those same people work within the industry, whether they work with the company that we were associated with or not. Like that's a contact in the industry and can kind of get you. And if they already have proof of your, of how valuable you are, for the team, that will kind of give them a comfort zone, so to speak, to like take a chance on you when you go fishing and kind of that stuff. Definitely. So I think it kind of helped us to learn how to, public speaking was a big thing, being representing our sponsors on and off the water, actually conducting business deals, working out stuff with sponsors, figuring out how much money it actually costs to go do stuff. So I think it was good because we were so hands-on and everybody was so hands-on. It wasn't just one guy dealing with everything. So I think
it kind of keeps everybody responsible and like making them be a real part of the team.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I got you. That's good. So, started the Opens in 2022. Where was your first tournament at?
It was at Kissimmee Chain. So it was kind of cool. Never been down there before it was announced. And so I went in January, and Grace and I went down there, scanned the entire thing pretty much. Tried to figure some stuff out offshore. And I kind of did, but I had an older boat at the time. I had an older Triton, and like 2 of my wheels fell off on the way down there. Before I even left my parents' house. And I was going to give myself a couple of days to practice just because your first Open. That was when there was no limit on practice. So I was going to go down there on the Saturday, and I was going to give myself 4 days of practice. Now we get 5 days of practice, but I thought 4 days was a good bet.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's, too much. But I get down there, and I'm like freaking out because I don't know like if I'm going to be able to get down there or not. Like my trailer's a mess. Luckily, I had a buddy that was able to weld some stuff back together, get my trailer rolling. I'm like, all right, let's go. Well, I get 2 hours from the house, and another wheel goes out.
Oh, man.
My buddy come down and help me put another wheel back on. He drove like 45 minutes from Auburn to come help me. His name is Bennett Slinkard, so shout out Bennett for helping me out. And I started leaving down there at like, I think it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I was still in Georgia, Georgia-Alabama line, like barely left the house.
Just limping the way down there.
Yeah, just limping it down there. And I was like, it would suck if it goes out again and I'm by myself, somewhere in between South Georgia and Florida on the side of the road somewhere. But I was like, dude, I've got to get down there. So I just did it. Went down there and I got to the boat ramp at 3 a.m.
That's great.
Slept in the truck and went and fished. And then, I've rigged a couple of my own boats in the past, but I'm not good at it. Not gonna lie. Like I put a live scope in a boat and I drilled holes to the side. Like not good. And RIP from that boat, whoever has that one now. Sorry, but that boat I had some power poles I just put on, and they were like deploying when they weren't supposed to deploy. And I was going to the service yard. The guy was like, "Who put these on? What deal put these on?" I was like, "Oh, it was me." And then he was like, cussing me out. Like why'd you do it like this? Like I was a mess. And then Matt Robertson saw like my boat in a mess at the service yard. He's like, bro, when you got stuff going on like this, I was telling him like all my thing. Like, I never met the guy before, it was kind of cool because like this is my first Open, this is my first big tournament, and there's all these dudes that I've seen on Bassmaster, and it's like cool. You see Paul Nick practicing, Gerald Swindle, and
for sure.
That guy, he's like, dude, you're gonna smash him because you went through this adversity kind of deal, just super nice guy just to say that, because he could tell I was just kind of like flustered a little bit. But
definitely.
I got like a day of practice for it, and I was like, all right. And then it was super cold too. The water temperature before I got there, I was talking to Logan and them. I think the water temperature was in the 40s in Florida. Well, it doesn't really get to the 40s in Alabama.
It doesn't even hard. Yeah, that's
like it was a legit freeze.
No way.
Those fish, everyone was saying, practice is terrible, whatever. Well, I went down there and I went to Lake Cypress. So it's the lake below Toho. You put in at Big Toho and you can walk to all the other lakes.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of practice, but I practiced on the boat. I got new graphs too. That was another thing. So I didn't transfer my waypoints from when I practiced.
Oh, man.
Well, they're all offshore hydrilla stuff. And so I was trying to remember in my head where it was, but it's like I was in the middle of the lake. So I had to find all that stuff again. Well, Cypress was the smallest one that I'd graphed. So I was like, I'm just going to go to Cypress because it would be the easiest. And I felt like I could, there's some really big fish that had been caught down there.
Yeah,
and I went down there and just started catching them really good in practice on a jerkbait. I had 1 day to practice really good on a jerkbait. And I was like, all right, let's go. And then started to get warm again, and those fish just flushed to the bank come tournament day, ready to spawn. Well, go down there, it's your first Bassmaster Open. I'm freaking out. Had super cool dude from Georgia, and we're going down to the lock, and, you have the lock. It's like you're anticipating, getting there, and you're waiting. Finally get through there. I get to my first spot. I catch one on my first cast in my Bassmaster Open on trap. And I'm like, dude, yeah. It was little, but it was a fish. I was like, and I catch another one. And I start catching all these like little ones that don't keep, and I'm like, bro, what is going on? And I was like, the thing about Florida though is like if you're around fish, you're around big fish too.
Yeah.
Kept fishing. Well, these fish, I was catching them on isolated stargrass clumps and catching them on a jerkbait and trap. Well, those fish ended up moving so close to the bank that they ended up getting towards another guy. Come to find out, it was a dude that I was rooming with for that tournament, but I didn't know him. I just met him, like he was a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
He top 10ing on the off part of that group of fish. He ended up, using those fish the first 2 days, and then ended up sight fishing the last day and a half. But I was still like pretty young, and like I guess it was only a year ago, but like I still didn't know like how close you want to get to a guy, how much space,
like I'm the new guy. I don't want to make anybody mad on my first day.
And I just didn't really know, and so I just like pulled the trolling up at like 1 o'clock, and I had caught all these little fish and like wasn't catching anything, and I was like, I hadn't had like small limit. No, I had 2 fish, and I ran back up to the lock, and I like for whatever reason just like wasn't nervous at that point. I was like, it's going to be okay. I'm going to go to this stretch of grass that I called him swimming a jig in practice.
Oh,
pulled
man.
up there and caught a big one, caught a good one, and then like cold one time or something, made it back in, and I was like sitting in like the 80s. But I was like, it's Florida, like 8 pounds out there is like, you're going to be mid-pack down there. It's like it's super good at the top. It looks great at the top level. But then you look down the leaderboard, and usually about 12 pounds a day in any Florida tournament is going to get you paid.
Yeah.
Realistically. It's just you got those difference makers when you catch an 8 or 9 pounder.
Right, yeah.
Well, second day, I ended up going back to that same area, and I caught some really big ones, lost some really big ones. But, yeah, I caught, I think, a 6-pounder on my last cast. So I was fired up. Like,
that's it.
My co-angler was like, dude, we got to go. And I was like, one more cast. And I caught a 6 and boat flipped it in his lap.
No way.
I was fired up.
On a trap?
No, that was on Swimjigs. So
man.
No, I would not boat flip on a trap.
Definitely not a 6-pounder.
No.
That's great, dude. Oh man. All right, we've got some comments. My dad asks, do you and your brother fish together?
We do, but we fish very differently. We fish the same but different, I guess. So I don't know how to describe it. It's just I think it's more that like not that we fish differently, we just argue with each other. Like even if it was like we both like if we were by ourselves, we would be doing the same thing we were doing, but like because like my brother found them, we're like, no, we're not gonna fish.
Like I don't want to fish his fish. He found them.
But when we're jiving together, we do really well. So
yeah, that's cool.
I like to fish with my brother for sure. But as far as tournaments goes, we'll definitely hop in some here and there, especially like night tournaments. That's really where we get to fish together the most. Yeah. But we don't fish any like big tournaments together, any trails or anything.
I got you. How's night fishing in Alabama? Is that like a big thing?
Big thing, yeah. Big spinner baits. That's more of a Coosa River deal. But we've got the green monster lights on Lake Martin, and they're kind of all over the southeast, but they originated on Lake Martin. It's a really cool light. Basically, all the homeowners will plug in these lights, and so you'll go at night, and they're just covered with green lights, and it attracts all the minnows and then all the bait fish, and you can literally fish them like brush piles. Like it's literally an aquarium. You can see them swimming around.
That's
pull
awesome.
Up, make 4 or 5 casts, and a roll, and you can hit 50 in a night, and that's when we were. Me and my brother really did some damage at night tournaments on Lake Martin. During COVID, we won like 9 or 10 in a row.
That's sweet.
Run it up, so it was pretty cool. But
yeah.
wish it was that good now, but the lake's kind of gone downhill. But my buddy just sent me some pictures the other night. They were catching them really good again. So
that's sweet.
Probably down there this weekend, so might do some night fishing.
Yeah, definitely. Is this your mom?
It is. It said Bennett Slinkard hero.
Shout out to Bennett Slinkard from Jake's mom. We've got another comment from my dad from YouTube. Do you feel your time fishing at the high school and college level has helped you prepare you for the opens?
It definitely has. The biggest thing that I think that's helped me is just like one, going to all these new lakes, and high school and college. Like high school, my dad was my boat captain. He was definitely like a big part of getting us into fishing. And one of the cool things is like he always encouraged us to learn it on our own. And like, yeah, he wanted us to like learn, watch YouTube videos and stuff, but it was never gonna like get a guide, like that was no. He like wanted us to learn it on our own. And then thankful for him to take us when it was snowing and miserable, and he didn't even get to fish, and like countless hooks in his head and his bad cast from us. DJ's a wild caster. You don't know where it's gonna go.
So Carson definitely put some more hooks in your dad's head than you did.
In my dad's, yes, but I probably hooked more in CJ's face. Yeah, Carson.
Was that out of like anger or just accident or both? Or
one time out of anger, but
no way.
No, but most of the time accident. So.
That's great.
But
we got Hunter on here. He said, "What about that bull shad?"
I do like that bull shad. The bull shad is cool bait. We were talking about swim baits before we started. The bait I really like is that bull shad, just that 5 and 6 inch, because it's so tournament friendly. Like you can catch a lot of fish on it, but it kind of fits my style because the best way to fish that thing, in my opinion, is reeling it as fast as you can, and that's when I eat it and wake it on top of the water. I just like big aggressive bites and like to trick the big dumb ones. So that's a bait that really tricks the big dumb ones. So
Hunter tricked my dad into buying a lot of bull shads at that fishing expo. So
yeah.
Matthew Hamilton says, "Can you tell us where y'all are going on your honeymoon? Don't get in trouble if you can't say."
We're going to Hawaii.
Well,
I take that back. I'm getting married. So we're fishing Watts Bar. Then I go straight from Watts Bar to Lake of the Ozarks. I go straight from Lake of the Ozarks as fast as I can to New York to go get married. Then drive as fast as I can back to Florida and go fish the tournament. So that's where my honeymoon's going to be, is at Harris Chain.
Awesome.
And then after that, we're going to go on our real honeymoon to Hawaii, I think. So
that's dedication. A real tournament.
So shout out to Grace for letting me do that. So
for sure. There's bass in Hawaii, isn't there?
There is. There's peacocks, smallmouth, and largemouth. But
smallmouth, really?
Yeah, I didn't think they could live up there, but I guess they're like you have the mountains and stuff, so you got some springs.
Yeah, makes sense though.
Cool, yeah. So
are you gonna go try to catch some Hawaii bass on the honeymoon?
I think I'm going to try. Yeah, no
doubt. Chris Yoder asked me to give up some juice on Old Hickory, but Chris Yoder doesn't get any of the good stuff. Dad says, "Does the Don Coffee Van have a nickname on the Open Series trail?"
I don't know. I can't say what they are on the but yeah.
So Jake, he runs the DCC Tech Wagon, which I wish I had a picture to pull up on here so y'all could see this awesome thing. But that's what he pulls his boat in around all the opens. So he's kind of known for the Tech Wagon. Tell us exactly what Don Coffee is.
So it's a rep group in the hunting and fishing industry. They do Costa Del Mar, Striker gear, but most what I deal with is Shimano, G Loomis, Jackal, Power Pro. So basically, I go in the store. So it's a group of reps. Basically, they make sure that there's Corrado DCs and Metaniums on your local tackle shop shelf. And basically, I'll go in there and then do product training on all of our new products that we get every year.
So you kind of travel and make sure the dealers know what they're talking about when somebody comes in and it's like, "Hey, what's this reel do, or why is it better than the other one?"
Exactly. And then cool thing about my job is I get to pull the boat everywhere, and I can take people fishing a lot of the time. So rather than me yap about how good this jerkbait is from Shimano, I can take you out in the water. One of the coolest stories of that is the first time I ever took somebody out. We had the World Minnows that came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We went to Lanier, and the first cast we ever made with them, I caught a 4-pounder on the front hook and a 4-pounder on the back hook. And
no way.
And he ended up buying them from another tackle shop that got them first. And he ended up buying, I think, like over 100 jerkbaits.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
he got a lifetime supply of World Minnows because of Jake Maddux.
Yeah. So it was pretty slick.
Knox White asks, swim bait trailer or a crawl? On a swim jig. Yeah.
So 99% of the time it's going to be a crawl. I do use a swim bait trailer. Well, I wouldn't say 99. I use a swim bait trailer in the fall, even if I'm trying to imitate bluegill for whatever reason. Like around where I live, in the fall they like it lower in the water column for whatever reason, or like not on the surface waking. Springtime and in your pre-spawn stuff, up to now, a lot of times they like it waking on top of the surface. One of the trailers is that new Big Bite ram tail. It's basically like you seen like a Big Bite bait's toad.
Yeah.
It's basically a smaller toad that fits better on the swim jig trailer. It's flat, skips really well. I like a trailer that has a lot of resistance when it's kind of colder and I want to slow it down. So like a big Colorado blade spinnerbait, it's equivalent to that.
I got you.
So I can wake it and fish it super slow and create a lot of vibration and displace a ton of water, and that's when I like that bigger trailer. And then sometimes I'll go down to like something like a swim and crawl or a kamikaze swim or kamikaze crawl if I want something just like kind of erratic that I can fish pretty quick. So
yeah, I got you.
Then swim bait too. Sometimes during a shad spawn, but most of the time I still like a crawl. Honestly, sometimes in the shad spawn I like a chunk. So I don't know. Weird.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah. So
there's different ways to swim it though. I swim it. It depends on like where I'm at and kind of the cover I'm fishing when I use the chunk. So
I got you. So would you say a swim jig is in your arsenal year round?
No, I don't get to throw it anymore. Like, because all the tournaments we go to this year is all deep fishing and scoping. But I've been burned on it more times than it's helped me. That's the thing is, if you live in Alabama, you can make thousands and thousands of dollars on it if you just fish Alabama. But outside of that, it's pretty hard. It helps me pick off a fish here and there. It might be something like, hey, I'm in a tough position. It's one of my confidence baits for sure.
Definitely.
But I don't get to rely on it nearly. And I hear kids all the time, like I've captained kids in the past, and they're like, man, I don't want to pick up that drop shot, man. Like I'm from the Coosa River. I'm a frog at swim jig and punch and stick, and I like 65-pound braid, and like, I'm like, well, dude, like if you're doing that all the time, you are going to get your butt whooped. Like I promise you, you gotta learn how to throw a spinning rod. You gotta learn how to do whatever. But for whatever reason, in my opens career, I probably lean more on a swim bait, a spinner bait, probably spinner bait more than any other bait in the opens. I don't know. I just kind of like spinner bait now.
Is it the swaggy?
Yeah, swaggy. So we got a new swaggy now with a lighter wire. I throw that one a good bit. I like the Picasso one a lot too. There's a few different ones I throw just depending on wire. I've been getting kind of like nerdy with it, like figuring out my wire size and my diameter and everything like that. Yeah. That swagey is really good, especially when you want a little bit more compact bait. But to be honest with you, my confidence is a 3/4 ounce spinner bait with the biggest blades on it, just trying to catch big ones.
I got you.
That's early in the year type thing. Right now, when we get a Watts bar, I'm sure I'm gonna have. I'm probably better off throwing an underspin there, like
yeah,
ball, but yeah. So
I remember you gave me the swagey spinner bait at that show, and like 2 weeks later, me and my partner Trevor went out and cracked him on Center Hill on that thing.
It's a sweet little spinner bait. Yeah, sure. I like it a lot. It's compact, small. You can burn it pretty quick. I like burn bait fish fast. So
the blades are made that way so you can burn it, aren't they?
Yep, flatter blades, so there's less cut, but because you have the offset in the wire diameter, so where the head and the line tie are is thicker, and then where the blades are, it's thinner. So that basically gives you like optimal vibration, but you can fish it really fast with the flat blades. So
gotcha.
It's really cool.
So Jake is actually a swim jig master, if you could see in this picture.
I really like swim jig. I really like swim jig.
So what swim jig do you actually throw?
So I like a dirty jig. So there's kind of a couple different ones. I like a Davis baits. It's got a thinner wire hook. When they're spawning or just off the spawn, I use that one. When it doesn't matter and they're actually choking it, because a lot of times what happens when they start spawning, they'll shoot it out of their bed, and so they don't get a good hook in them a lot of times, or you miss a lot of fish. That's what happened to me at the Open that you follow this year.
Yeah.
Really, really big ones were eating it in practice and choking it, and I was swimming a dirty jigs. So the one I throw is the no jack, and that the whole bait is designed off of a tuna hook. So
Really?
legit tuna hook, and you gotta throw big gear to swim it. So
I got you.
that's the
that thing has a monster
that's the
hook.
one I'd rather catch him on that one. The Davis one, I will bend the hook out a lot of the times.
Oh, really?
Just because of where you're putting that bait. And then I also throw the evergreen, where it's just the grass raider. But that's when I throw a swim bait trailer. I throw it on that bait.
I got you.
And that's more of like a reeling it around milfoil, reeling around boat docks, like kind of like an open water. If I'm reeling around boat docks or anything like that, I like that swim bait trailer. So
I got you. When do you throw braid versus fluoro or mono? When does that change?
I'm pretty much always so. Take that back. I have another swim jig I throw too. I throw a 5/8 white arky head too during shad spawn, and that's when I use that big chunk. And so basically with that rod, I'm going to use like a 7.2 heavy with like 20-pound fluoro, and I'm instead of like shaking it, I'm doing like hops, and that's mainly around just hard cover. That's going to be your docks, your riprap, stuff like that.
I got you.
Marinas, but other than that, pretty much always braid. And it's always 50-pound braid.
50-pound braid.
Yep.
What kind of rod do you throw?
7.2. So if I'm using that Davis, I'm going to use a 7.2 medium heavy. If I use the Dirt Jigs No Jack, I'm going to go 7.2 heavy. And then I think I'm going to make my own swim jig coming up and make it perfect. So I'll have a different rod for that, hopefully. So
the J Mad swim jig.
Yeah, no doubt. So
switching over to some live scope stuff.
Yeah.
You have some little heads here that are unique, but tell us about these Echo Baits heads.
Yeah, so those are pretty cool. They're an awesome sponsor. I actually fished with the guy that invented them several times. We did some guide trip stuff on Lake Martin, just learning the live scope, when it first came out. And he's an engineer, and so he kind of took that technology and the stuff that we kind of did on the water and was like, how can we make this better and more enjoyable for some people? So that's kind of where he sat down and decided to build that head. Basically, it's a concave head that reflects sonar at greater distances. So basically, it acts like a satellite dish. So
yeah, that's whenever I think about it, that's kind of what I think of for like a radar.
Yeah, exactly. So it pings it back. It's a harder return than traditional lead. So if you cast just a straight lead ball head out there versus this one, you'll see the difference and everything. And then one of the cool things is like, I know bait pop's a big thing now too. Yeah. That little cavity in the head, you can even put that in there too, just to kind of have it rather than it, the bait pop just like falling off after a few casts. Like you can put it in there and it'll stay in there.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't think about that.
Kind of like an option. And then another cool thing is like the way the head design is it dives deeper than a normal swim bait. So you can use a lighter head to get better depth. So it's pretty cool doing that. And then also when our spots are spawning out here, they like a jerk bait, like in the dirt, like jerking, even if I'm fishing like 4 foot of water, I'll throw that +1 or +2,
really?
Banging around in the red clay. With that swim bait, it'll dig in the red clay and it really catches them too. So
that's sweet. Yeah.
Crankbait on just like disturbs the bottom.
Yeah.
So
do you use bait pop?
No, I don't.
You don't? No. Have you ever used it?
Never have. I know guys were using it on the head though.
Yeah.
I talked to the bait pop guy at ICAST, and he was saying we were talking about just the different sonar heads and the different technologies that are coming about with live scope. And, there's a lot of topics with the live scope nowadays. I know there's probably gonna be some news in the next couple of weeks that people are not gonna be happy about, but it is what it is. So,
what's your opinion on live scope? Do you think it's more of a tool, or do you think it's hurting bass fishing, or what's your take on it?
I mean, so after you fall a tournament, like I had mechanical issues where my graphs didn't work anyways and my motor didn't work, but I was stuck on swimming a jig. Like that was what I was like, if I can catch 22 pounds pretty easy swimming a jig, I'm going to do that rather than, hurt my arm throwing a 10XD, catching the same weight. Like I'm gonna go catch them shallow. They ended up not being on, like they kept nipping at it, whatever. But like after that tournament, just like it was just a bad tournament. Well, after weigh-in, Grace, my fiance, she's like, I sat here and watched everyone weigh in all these big bags, and everyone that talked about it was talking about live scope, and you never talk about live scope. And you've got I got 2 of them on my boat, and you're not using it, and you spend all that money because she looked up how much it costs, and she said, you got 2 of them on your boat. Why are you not using it? So I took that tournament between that and Toledo Bend to get dialed in on live scope. So Logan is really good on it. We and him went crappie fishing a few times, and we caught him like deep on Martin and like got to really dial it in. And it's not like you plug it in and just magically start catching them. And
so it definitely doesn't catch the fish for you.
No, but I mean, at the same time, like I listened to a podcast with Chris Zaldane earlier today, and they were saying that guys, instead of like getting dialed in on a pattern, like it's got to be on this type of tree with this, with the flipping stick. It's like they're just using the whole lake is their pattern. Like they just go and, scope. And that's true to an extent. But what I've noticed in the guys in the opens, there's some really, really good scopers. Like Tyler Williams, for example. He's from Maine. He's one of the best scopers there is. And he's unlocking patterns within the scope, if that makes sense. So, like, rather than just casting at dots, like, they're not just, like, on this drop right here. He's figuring out that, hey, this tree on this slope is I don't know if he's doing this or not, but I've seen this. Say, like, a big he's better than me, so I'm going to assume that he knows this. Basically, like, there's a steeper bank, and there's a tree on that bank. And that tree is casting a shadow over the water, and there's a bass underneath that shade, but he's in the middle of the lake on nothing, and I can scope him. So that's the type of stuff you're like, oh, I'm gonna run these type of trees. So it's the same thing as fishing the bank,
right?
It's not like any difference, and it's like they're like, oh, like back in the day, you had to be a good flipper, be able to flip it accurately. Well, the same thing goes with the fish. You're casting out a moving target.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And I know there's talk about them banning it for the elites and for the opens next year, or limiting it to the amount of transducers. I really hope not, because I already spent the money. So I've gotten to where, like last year in the opens, like I could go to the bank and go get paid pretty often. Like I could just go and cash checks, and I wouldn't have anyone else fishing around me. But all those guys were learning how to use live scope. And this year they're just so much better. And then our schedule aligns with it really, really well. And then, I'm at the end of the day, I'm a shallow water power fishing, but there's been a lot of times where I've got out of trouble by using scope. It's just a better tool. And a lot of guys at home, like, hate on it or hate the blueback herring because they're like, man, the fish are living out in the middle of the lake. You can't catch them, And I was like, well, I mean, what's the difference between, me having a chatterbait? A chatterbait was such a dominant bait that caught fish that a spinnerbait, a crankbait didn't catch,
Yeah.
So, like, what's the difference? And then it just shows, like, those fish can still hide from live scope. And there's so many fish in the lake that it's not like you're going to catch them all. But it also spreads people out, I feel like, a lot of the time. I mean, I know at Champlain there was talks like where everybody was in the same area of the inland sea, just kind of on top of each other. But at the same time, most of the tournaments, they'll get you out of trouble. Like I went to one this year at Bugs Island. I was catching them on a spinnerbait and flipping jig. But I made a key call at the end of the day. I scoped one off a stump. Like, just he was there, and I caught, and I knew that stump was there because I found those fish on the stumps. Like, and it was just kind of a backup deal. Like, even everyone thinks you have to like chase them out in the middle of the lake to use live scope. You don't. I flip a jig with live scope. I don't swim a jig with live scope. It's a little bit hard there, but I catch them on the glide bait on the scope. Some stuff. I mean, at Eufaula, Oklahoma this year, I went into a pocket. I was like, let me try some boat dogs. I skip a 3/8 ounce jig, 3/8 ounce jig. No. Skip a 1/2 ounce jig, and I see them go. They were suspended on the crossbar with a thermocline there. I wouldn't have known about the thermocline or that they were on only the crossbars without live scope, without having to catch one. It was such a tough tournament. You weren't getting a lot of bites to give you the data to be like, hey, they're only on the crossbars.
Right.
But they're on the crossbars, suspended at the thermocline. I throw my 3/8 or my half-ounce jig, and it goes past their face. They go down to the thermocline, and they turn around, and they don't eat it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tie on a 3/4 ounce jig and see if they react to it. Shoots past their face, don't have enough time to eat it. I tie on a 3/8 jig, and this is all within 3 casts on the same boat dog. I tie a 3/8 jig on, he swims up and eats it. So I just figured out in 3 casts that they want a 3/8 jig, and I could have skipped every single boat dock in that pocket and said they're not on docks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it helped me figure out how to, use the right lure at the right time. And
Definitely.
so I think it helps a lot. So
yeah. Kind of just like your eyes under the water to me.
Yeah, for sure. There's times where like I don't want to look at it. Like when we go to these northern tournaments, they're fun catching smallmouth, but like the best thing ever is to go home, and even if punching's not the deal when we get home, I want to go punch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because I haven't had a big rod in my hand, and like it feels good to go punch. And that's like me and Logan were talking about. Like if we're gonna go to these like tough flakes, like let us punch at least. Like let's go to Red River, like go do something fun. I don't want to go. If it's tough, I don't want to have to go scope them with a 2.5 Kitech or like whatever, or 2-inch whatever. But that's just my 2 cents. It's not changing anything. It's just, it's definitely changing how we fish, but at the same time, I'm a shallow water power guy, and I've learned how to use it to my advantage to help me be an even better shallow water power guy.
Definitely. Yeah, that's my take on it too. I think it's just a tool, just like side scan and down scan. You can use it to your advantage and your style of fishing, and you can kind of mold it however you want to.
Yeah.
So we have a new segment to the podcast. This is called Tackle Tip with Double L.
Hey guys, Double L here. Got a brand new season of high school fishing underway. Excited about the season. We've got a lot of new boat captains, a lot of new teams out. We've got several from Mount Juliet. Just want to share a couple of things that might help a new captain out on the water. So, number one, make sure you check your lights the night before the tournament. You don't want to be messing around with lights or battery issues or anything like that. Make sure you got your life jackets, kill switches working, check all your safety equipment. Bass Nation always puts out there all the stuff required for the tournament, so make sure you read the rules really good. They put those out for a reason, and that'll help you a whole lot. Really important, guys, don't forget your kill switch. You do not want to end up in the penalty box. And most important, guys, besides safety, which is always number one, be an encourager, be a motivator, try to keep your team uplifted. I tell people all the time, one of the biggest things as a boat captain is being your team cheerleader. You got to keep their head in the game. And overall, have fun, enjoy your time on the water with your anglers, and just have a good day. Hey guys, Jimmy, go on about your business. Like I don't know, he's standing behind the wall.
Jimmy!
Some wise words of wisdom with legendary boat captain Double L. Take notes of that stuff, but seriously, that is some good stuff. Check your lights, check your kill switch, and have a good day on the lake. So Jake, we were just talking about live scope, and live scope's definitely just a tool. How do you use it in practice? Do you think you use it more in practice to find the fish, or do you use it more in the tournament to actually pinpoint the fish and catch them on live scope?
I don't know. It's probably a good mix. I try to catch them the way I want to catch them, but like going into this tournament at Watts Bar, I know I'm going to use it a lot more in practice, just searching for bait balls and like the uncatchable fish, basically the ones that are out there in the middle, like just chasing bait. Like I know that's going to be a big deal. Where they're going to be, I don't know, but that's why we got a big 250 motor on the back. So we're going to go around the lake and look for them. But no, I definitely use it. But there's definitely guys that literally just pick a section and just troll all day and use it.
Yeah.
I'm not that like I get super bored. Like I can't even scan. Like I'm scanning for 5 minutes and I'm on TikTok. Like
You gotta have some action.
it's like I like to like I'm better off like I would say like I guess I get more bored scanning than I do scoping. But at the same time I'll put my phone in the glove compartment and just kind of like scan and do what I need to do. I like to cast. So being able to cast at like dots is really good. And then also like you feel like you get an idea of like fish size and everything. But sometimes it's good to like kind of get freshened up on that particular lake because like the watercolor might be different. You might have more grainy stuff. You might turn your stuff down, get that kind of like dialed in at first and kind of like see because there's so much stuff that you can figure out with the scope first. But like at the end of the day, ditches, points, and creek turns are all places bass live. And if you can just, when you first get to a place, put the trolling motor down and just start scoping that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
an idea pretty quick what the, if there's anything out there to look at. And then flats obviously are huge. So,
Right.
and then, if they're on the flats, start scanning for every little stick up and rock or whatever. So,
Yeah.
no, I definitely think I run around a lot more. I do a lot of lake practice, like map study before I go down there and like just kind of research for a lake. And that helps a lot too, just kind of break down. I got kind of lazy at St. Lawrence. So I think that kind of hurt me, but oh well.
We got some more comments. JJ LaRue asks, what is your favorite lake and your most memorable tournament?
So my favorite lake would have to be, I really like Oneida. I really click with that lake. In the Open last year, I think I was in 7th after day 1 and I choked day 2. But I know what I did wrong out there. And then I also proposed out there. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
I love Lake Eufaula. I also choked there a lot this year. So I guess all the places I choked, I tend to like.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, so I really like those two places. I moved over here to Lanier. I really like Lake Lanier. And then obviously Lake Martin just because I grew up there.
Yeah.
Most memorable tournament would probably have to be either Saginaw Bay with my brother, just because it was like we kind of like everyone thought it was going to be a smallmouth tournament, and like we ended up top 10ing it on largemouth. And on every single one of them on frog and swim jig, the exact way I like to throw it. And that was like the only tournament I've ever had where I got to do that like in a college tournament. And then my first tournament I ever fished was a pretty cool experience. I was, I think, 11, maybe 12, maybe 13. I don't know, probably 12. And Mark's Outdoors is a big shop in here in Birmingham. And they had a pro-am tournament every year where they had 500 boats and they'd have all the pros come in. And I was wearing a Shimano hat, saved up, bought my first Shimano reel. It was a Cronarch 200E, the white one. And it was my first bait I ever bought myself. And it was, I thought I was bad to the bone. Well, because I saved up and everything, my mom was kind of proud of me, I guess. And she bought me a Shimano hat. And it was a white Shimano hat. And we'll walk in the doors, the Shimano rep that works for Don Coffee, actually, when I was like 13.
Really?
He was like, man, I like your hat. You're looking sharp or whatever. He's like, you fish bass tournaments? And I was really young. I was like, no, sir. All I fish is ponds and golf courses or wherever. And he's like, would you like to? And I was like, absolutely. So because Don Coffee reps not only Shimano but Costa as well, the top dog at Costa on the pro level was Casey Ashley. So I got to fish my first tournament with Casey Ashley on lake. And he was having fun. It was a fun tournament, but he was top level pro. And when it was time to blast off, they're calling boat numbers. He didn't care what number he was. He was pro. And just and he goes, the fastest I've ever been in a bass boat. Run up the river on Lay Lake and see him put on an absolute clinic on throwing a frog. And then I think his biggest one he had was like a 5.5 pound spot on poplar.
Oh man.
So he ate it right at the boat too. Slammed it. And that was like kind of really cool. I didn't catch a single fish that time. But I saw him like how a pro like catches them. You know, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So that's probably the most memorable tournament. Is just the first one.
It's a pretty cool first one though.
Yeah, it was a really cool first one. I got to go fast in the bass boat, see him make decisions, and catch big ones on a frog, and that's kind of like why I like frog fish too.
Yeah.
Just seeing that. So, yeah, that's probably my most memorable one. That was just a really cool tournament.
Yeah, that one's a lot cooler than my first tournament. Mine was on Center Hill, and by about 12 o'clock, we were trying to figure out who could cast our whopper flopper furthest in the pool.
Yeah. I heard your podcast last week with Logan. So,
Yep.
I guess I got y'all both beat.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely got us both beat. Matthew Hamilton says, "What's your PB and where and what on?"
So I've caught a bunch of like sevens and stuff that you follow, like just solid fish. But the biggest was actually caught after school one day in high school. We have a like 14-acre lake that's like little residential pond type thing, and you're able to put like a john boat in it. And this is like where I learned how to like kind of fish, was this pond before we had a bass boat or anything. We had like this 10-foot Pelican bass raider, and me and my brother used to go out there all the time. Well, it was fine. I think it was freshman year. I took my final, got out of class. So it's like December, and it's like 80 degrees when we walk into class. And then when we walk out of class, it's like 60, and the temperature's dropping, and it's like barometric pressure's going out. I texted my friend Brady. I was like, dude, we have to go fish the pond right now. They're probably biting. I think we caught legit over 100 fish that day, and they were like a ton of 5-pounders.
No way.
I went to go drop Brady off because he had to go home because his mom was cooking dinner or something. And I was like, well, let me fish one more spot after I drop Brady off. I dropped Brady off. I'm like, this is when I first like figured out how to do jerk. And this was cool too, because that Marks Outdoors tournament that I fished with Casey, they have a sick tackle toss. And in that tackle toss, they threw a Lucky Craft jerkbait, a pointer, the XD, the little one, with 2 hooks and long bill, and a Table Rock shad color. And I was learning how to throw a jerkbait and drop him off the boat, off the bank, and I'm like jerking this like drain. Like I didn't even know anything about fish. It was basically this big ditch that had some brush in it. And I caught like a 13 or 14 pounder. Like couldn't jump. It was like, and it started to snow that afternoon. Like it was like legit, like straight up barometric drop, like 80 to freezing. And they were chewing like giant. Like I was in probably shorts. Like it was freezing cold, but like caught that giant fish and catch them on trap, jerkbait, and all that stuff. And that was the biggest fish I've ever seen. So that was sick.
That's awesome. So you caught your PB on a bait that got thrown to you at your first tournament.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then I got another Lucky Craft. For whatever reason, I catch big ones in the Lucky Craft. I don't know. I catch big ones with Shimano too, but like I haven't got to. I don't know how Lucky Craft just catches them. So
just catches the bigs.
Yeah, I caught like a 10 on like the little crankbait they gave me too. And
really
loaded, I guess. I don't know.
That's crazy. Knox White says, "Jake, you're my hero. No scope, punching all day."
Yeah. I mean, I've scoped and punching too.
Really?
Like trash mat, like not really like if you're just like going down the bank punching, but like if it's a trash mat blowing up against something, if I can pull down, I will, and like you can scan underneath and see if there's. You can't really always see there's something because they can be so tight to the mat. But I like to punch too, no doubt.
We have our first high school tournament coming up on Nick and Jack, and he fishes with my partner's little brother, and he says, "What are you punching?"
So in the fall, I like a smaller bait. I'm a fan of a smaller bait just in general punching, but I really like if you're gonna try like a full size bait to start out with, I like to have two. Just a Yo Mama big bite bait is really good. Reaction Innovations Beaver is really good. I really like what we call the Yo Daddy though. It's a sick little bait. It's got little kicking legs, but it's only about that big. I might have some. I know I've got some. I'm gonna be digging for forever to find them, but they're basically it's just a small little crawl that has like little kicker legs. That's really streamlined. It comes through the mat really well, and it holds a big hook even though it's small. And that's what bait I really, really like this time of year.
Sweet.
No doubt. So
yeah, grass. There's a pretty good amount of grass on Nicky Jack, and I'm sure Knox is definitely going to be punching on that one. He is about 4 foot tall, but that dude can sling a big bait, and he loves glide bait fishing too.
that's awesome.
He's like a mini Zaldane.
That's sick.
JJ says that was a pretty cool first tournament experience. And Ben Ridge asked PB. We already talked about that one. Who would you say was your biggest influence on your fishing?
I would say probably my dad, just for helping me get into it. And then he like grew up fishing like ponds and stuff, but he never like tournament bass fished or anything. And so my brother, my dad, and me kind of all learned how to fish together. So that was probably the coolest thing. And like there was no right or wrong way to do it. So it was just kind of just spending time in the boat together.
Yeah.
Other than that, probably my granddad. Him and my dad just got me into it together, just fishing that same pond I was telling you about. I caught my first fish in that same pond. So
Yeah.
when I was really little. So that would definitely be the two people that definitely been the most influential. And then as far as like learning goes, like it's just me and my brother like figuring out either on our own or YouTube for real. So
Yeah. YouTube's a good resource.
no doubt.
Jacob Walker says, "What size jig do you like to float?"
5/8 white jig. He's the master of the 5/8 white jig.
Oh man, is
His
it?
dad was the one that walked in at Mark's Outdoors and got me hooked up to fish with Casey Ashley. So
Oh, is it?
one of the best fishermen I know, and he has been the last guy out to make the Elite Series several times in a row.
Really?
He didn't fish him this year, but I think he's going to be. I don't know if it'll be the Opens or if it'll be the Invitationals or NPFL, but he will be winning a lot of money next year. So watch out for Jacob.
Good deal.
You need to have him on here actually too. So
Yeah. Well, Jacob, if you want to come on the show, shoot me a message. We will gladly have you on. Ben Ridge asks, "What high school did you fish for?"
Spain Park High School in Birmingham, Alabama. So
Did they have a pretty big team, or were they like just starting out? Or
when we were there, we had a older guy. He fished the Opens too. He was, I think, a year or two older than me, but Brady Vernon. His dad was also the coach, and so they were really big on, they were also older than me and knew how to fish a lot more than I did. So it was like kind of cool to like learn stuff from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was like a fairly big team, maybe like 10 people, but apparently now we skipped so much class when we were there, and like I guess we did pretty well in the high school tournament sometimes, that now if you're on the fishing team, it's public school and everything, you automatically get no school on Fridays to go practice. So
really?
it must have grown a lot more since we were there. So
Yeah.
I think we kind of like the starters missing too much school that they just let us slide.
You were the trendsetters.
Yeah, I was a Friday misser, so
That's great. Whenever you have a bad tournament, who is your first call and why?
usually it's either my dad or it's Grace. I think it's Grace most of the time. And then my dad usually calls me and cheers me up because I don't get sad. I just get pissed. Like I know better to do. Like it's all stuff I knew better. And then it's like, my dad's like, you should have trusted your gut. And that's what he says. He's like, because like, to be honest with you, I'm not the best caster. I'm not the best side scanner, but like, I think I can trust my gut and like just as soon as something goes in my head, like just do it. Like I just took my I had to go to the ADHD doctor today, like to go like because I was low or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like saying I have bad impulse control or like I can't focus and like so I guess that's like kind of leans towards like they say I'm like I'm very impulsive, I guess. So I guess that like anytime I get a decision in my like something in my head, I'm like, let's go do it real quick. Like, because it only take like 5 minutes, like,
yep.
I'll run down and flip one lay down, I'll run 30 miles to go flip one lay down or like do just some wacky stuff. Like,
Yeah. Does it ever pan out?
oh yeah. It pays out more than it hurts, so it's good. I probably would say, I don't know. This year's been a little bit different just because it's been so offshore oriented, where it's like a spot type of deal. Like it's been a spot at Eufaula or like a couple different spots at Eufaula, same way at Wheeler, Toledo Bend. It's been like offshore oriented tournament, so it's a little bit different. But when we get to fall fishing, when there is no pattern and it's all like, hey, like you can get in trouble in the fall because you can catch a 4-pounder off a tree or a laydown, and then I'm gonna go fish all types of laydowns and never get another bite. But
yeah,
I got that feeling in like, hey, that laydown looks good. I'm gonna flip it. Do catch the 4-pounder, and I just get like really bored really quickly. Like when I catch a fish on one bait, I'm like, that was cool. Let me see if I can catch him on this one.
Spike the whole rotation.
Yeah, I'm like I'm real like I'll catch 2 on like, say I'm like dragging something. I'm like, I caught 2 on a shaky head offshore, like bite stuff. Like, okay, cool. Let's see if they with the glide bait. Like I just like jump to conclusions, and that's kind of my biggest issue. Like sometimes you gotta like take baby steps, but sometimes it's good to just jump into it.
Yeah, this like you don't ever think about that kind of stuff. Like you're impulsive, so you make different decisions in a tournament.
I think so. I don't know. I might just be crazy. I don't know.
You might be. Jacob Walker asked mag draft versus glide bait on docks and trees.
I would say I've caught more on a mag draft, but I like the glide just because you can fish it a lot faster.
What kind of glide bait do you throw?
I throw the Scottsboro one a lot. It's just a smaller glide bait, and you can cast it really easily. You can fish it really fast. You can fish it really aggressively, and it gets bit. So that's the one I like. They have a sinking model, like a fast sinking one. I like that one. I like the Shimano Armor Joint too. It's a little bit slower, but the flash boost, like when they want something not so fast and they want to like chase a bait a long ways and follow it out, I like that one just because it has the flash boost. That's something, Charles Extra Strikes. And then the Tato Designs one is really good. And then I really like the Depths 250, but I just don't really get much places to go fish it. It's such a big bait.
What about this one?
That's the Depths 250.
Yep.
That is at Harris Chain, and I will be throwing that a lot at Harris Chain. And I really hope that I make a top 10 there and get on live, because I will throw that thing all day.
Give the people a show.
Give the people a show. They're probably so sick of watching those smallmouth tournaments.
Yeah, I mean I watched a podcast the other day, and that's what they were talking about. I think it was Scott Martin and some guys like the live scope tournaments aren't as fun as like somebody punching a mat or something.
No, it's not. Like even like the Sabine River, they had a bunch of viewership and stuff. Or like the Chesapeake Bay last year for the Open got more views than the Elite Series at some at the smaller tournaments. But I don't know. I feel like everyone's blaming it on the live scope tournaments that they don't like, but I feel like it's just the smallmouth, the trash.
Yeah,
trash fish. Wish every time it was a spotted bass and largemouth tournament, maybe a smallmouth like cherry or something. But
yeah,
I'm just kidding. Those northern ones are fun. So
definitely. What do you think about Watts Bar, the next Open coming up?
I'm stoked for that one because I've never been there, but the thing is I've had some pretty good tournaments this year, but I've had a really, really bad one at the beginning of the year. Like we were saying at Eufaula, I had some motor issues and just missed the kind of the bite. And I spent more time on Eufaula probably than any other lake, and just like been waiting for a big tournament. So that one kind of hurts. But
yeah,
I'm outside. I'm behind the 8 ball. I think I was 160th in points after the first term of the year.
Oh man,
like terrible. Now I've had some good finishes and stuff, and I've jumped to 31st.
31st.
So that's a big jump. And because I'm only 130 points out of the 9 spot, because we're going to Watts Bar and because we're going at a certain time of year where the potential is there for guys at the top to 0, like truly 0, and guys to have bad tournaments and for fish to die at being so hot. I think I couldn't write it better as far as a place to go. Maybe Red River would be the only other place that I'd like to go besides that one, where potentially I have a shot if I were to do really well, could jump up a lot. So it's a really good opportunity to see where I think depending on how I do here will determine if I still have a chance or not, which is kind of cool. Because if I have a good one here, Missouri's kind of up in the air because there is a lot of fish in there. It's going to be, everybody's going to have 5 there. It's just a matter of getting bigger bites. But it's not so much of a difference maker lake. But when we go to Florida, too, at the end of the year, there's a lot of guys that choke in Florida. And there's a lot of
Florida's a tough one.
too. And that time of year that we're down there in Florida, there's a lot of guys haven't never been there that time of year. So
when are y'all going?
We go middle of October.
Oh, really? Where at?
Harris Chain.
Harris Chain. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Every time I think of a Florida tournament, it's like
January, February.
Yep.
And that big live bait fish was at Harris Chain in November. So we'll see. I would love to throw that thing. I mean, there's no way that I would be able to catch 5 bass on it in a day out there, but I for sure could catch 1 10-pounder. And that changes your tournament. So
that's a difference maker.
I'm excited, but that being said, though, Watts Bar is going to probably be the most crucial tournament for me all year. To where if I do have a good tournament there, that one's going to switch up the points a lot, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then that style of fishing, from what I understand, where there's not really a pattern, it's more just go fishing and cover water. That's kind of what I like to do and have a lot of fun today. So I've been preparing for that one. Done a lot of map study on that one, and I'm excited to get out there. I'm ready to go, to be honest with you. So
that's what's up. There's a lot of ups and downs in fishing, especially when you have so much on the line, like, having a good finish to make it up to the top leaderboard in points, to make the elites and whatnot. But you're having a bad derb. How do you come back and stay in the game on the head side of it?
So if stuff's not working, the hardest thing is these 2-day tournaments, because it's like, what do I go do now? But most of the time, I think I've had more, at least last year for sure, and this year too. I've had so many tournaments where after day 1 I'm in 80th place, and then I leave the event with a check still.
Yeah,
it's because sometimes not caring as much, I do better. Where it's I'm getting back to having fun fishing. So I think that's the hard part too, is because you fish better that way, but when you got so much on the line, and one event could dictate making the elites or not, or making this a full-time gig.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that, but at the same time, it's just take a deep breath, drive your boat around, go to a different spot. Literally start from fresh. Eufaula was the worst tournament I ever fished mentally, ever. But
I mean, that's tough. On a lake, you've had so much passed on, and you've done so well there in the past, and sometimes those are the worst turns where too much about it already.
Yeah, no doubt. But that was the worst one I've ever had mentally. But I feel the rest of the year I fished really, really well. I feel in my opinion, just looking back, there's definitely things I could have improved on. All of them, where some of them keeps me up at night. There's one time at Bugs Island, I was fishing really well. This is an idiotic move. Don't ever do this. This is the biggest thing I figured out in the opens. If you have some fish, burn them to the ground. There's no saving fish in these big fields. Just go find more of them. Literally just go find, if you have a spot, do not save those fish. Burn
them down.
In the elite, when you have 100 guys, I'm sure it's going to be different because you only have 100 guys. I'm sure they find a lot more of the same stuff, but really burn them to the ground. I had a Bassmaster camera crew roll up to me at Bugs Island and was like, "Hey Jake, we're going in for lunch now to upload these photos on the internet, they do the morning vlog or whatever."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, we're gonna follow you first thing in the morning tomorrow, third day." And so I thought I made the third day because it was towards the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was gonna go back to this area and fish it one more time. And then instead of doing that, I was like, I'm in the cut. I'm gonna go practice for tomorrow. And I left my fish and went and fished all brand new water and culled one more time, but it was a smaller cull. And I have this one bush that haunts me that I know for a fact I could have caught a big one out of. Because every time I rolled up to this bush, I caught a bigger than average fish.
Yeah. And
it was just and then same thing at Ross Barnett last year. I was catching these fish, caught 13 pounds quick at 11 o'clock. And that was pretty good in that tournament, I guess. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm going to go flip for a 7-pounder. and I left my thing. I was like, I had no idea. I didn't practice any punching stuff. I'm good about fishing new water, but I'm almost like too easy to like stop what's working, you know. So like just to go try, which helps, and I wouldn't change it the way I fish. I think it works more times than it doesn't, but I think in the opens when there's that many people, definitely burn them to the ground. And back to your question about the high school and college fishing, like helping, those big field sizes really prepare you to fish at the open where there is a 250 boats, because I mean your championship had 490 or whatever. So
481.
Yeah, so like those big fields, figuring out how to fish. I mean, like to be honest with you, the biggest thing I always tell Logan's like, you're an idiot, but like I'll literally go and fish the worst looking stuff on purpose because it's going to be left alone. I'll find the worst looking stuff.
That's kind of the mindset we've had this year. It's like find something that the other 200 boats aren't going to fish.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly like what you're saying with the Hartwell deal. Like I figured that out last year at our open. Like that middle section of the lake is really, really underrated. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so no doubt. So
how do you, whenever you're like on a pattern or you're catching fish one way and then it stops working, or maybe like it's time of day or whatever, what kind of determines when you swap it up and change baits?
So like at Toledo Bend this year, I was on a really good shad spawn. And I found them last day of practice, and I went down this bank and caught like 15 or 16 pounds pretty quick in the morning. I probably got 14 on it in the morning, and then I caught one big one in the afternoon, a popper. The second day I rolled up there, and they were completely gone. And so I got like a few bites on it, but they were gone. I could see them on live scope against the seawall. They were not there. The bait wasn't there. And I'm like, I automatically thought, where's the first place they pulled out to? Because, you know, they're not going to go, you know, where can they go next? And so there was a timber line. I went and checked it real quick. That's the beauty about live scope too. I went and shined my live scope in the timber. Didn't see much. I mean, I saw some fish for them for a little bit, but it wasn't really the deal. And so I automatically knew that I needed to change. So, and then same way with St. Lawrence this year. Like I knew I had a terrible practice. So like, why would I beat my head against the wall, praying and hoping that I was going to catch a big one off the only places I found in practice, rather than just like, hey, just go find bigger ones, you know, like go fish new stuff. So like, don't get in your head about practice. And then like at Toledo Bend, I'm all over the place right now, but just ran to like shallow stuff's not working. There's not much activity. There's not shad on this bank. There's probably not shad on a lot of these banks that they were on the other day. And I'm not seeing birds on the bank. Like it's not the same. It's high pressure. I was like, dude, I need to go offshore. Go offshore, start catching them. So
yeah, for sure.
It's just it's more of like a gut feeling experience type thing. And then like the more tournaments you fish and the more time in the water, you get more comfortable. And fishing is good. Like just going fishing is awesome. Like because you learn so much and you're carefree. But like learning how to fish tournaments under pressure and like making those decisions gets you more comfortable to make those decisions over and over and over again. So.
Definitely, yeah. So it's more of like a, I kind of feel like I needed to make this change, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah, with the gut feeling, or like sometimes it might be like, hey man, like there's not that the shad's not acting the way it is. The shad's
not happening.
The shad's not here. The bait's not here. The pressure's not. You know, they're not on the places they should be on with the. You know, I don't know, just gut feeling stuff, or like I'll swim like the second day you fall, I swam a jig for 5 minutes and knew it wasn't the deal. Like I needed to go do something else the second day. So I don't know, just a feel thing for sure.
Gotcha. We got another comment. J Mad, what would you tell a kid just getting into bass fishing to help them make real improvements in their catch rate?
I would just use baits that get a lot of bites. That's one of the things that I've kind of figured out in the opens too this year is like rooming with John Garrett this year. He really throws a drop shot a lot. And really just kind of figuring out like baits that get bites. A shaky head gets a lot of bites. A drop shot gets a lot of bites. So like even for Watts Bar, I'm thinking like, because it's going to be so tough, what are baits that are easy to get bit on? A shaky head, a drop shot, a small popper. Like those are all baits that are, you know, catch bigger bites. And then just improving your odds by going fishing at certain times. So whether you're fishing in a boat when the generation's on a lake like the Coosa River or Watts Bar, making sure you're at a prime feeding window. If you're fishing early in the morning or late in the afternoon, in August it seems like it's either really good in the morning or it's good like 3 o'clock to dark. And it seems like 3 o'clock to dark is the best feeding window around the August time frame for whatever reason. Just like setting yourself up and then like just putting your bait in really good areas where fish live, like learning how to cast and, using shade to your advantage, that kind of stuff, just upping your odds by using those kind of tools and just kind of that mindset just to check that kind of stuff first.
It's good stuff. My dad asks a question that we've talked about, and I've sent many screenshots of Tackle Warehouse. He says, "Ask my question, Presley. I need to know if he's taking the NRX or the Poison Ultima."
I don't know. There's more actions in the NRX, but I really like the Poison Ultima. I got to fish with it in the Riders Conference. We had our Shimano Pro deal down in Florida where we went down there and got to fish with all the new stuff. And our pro staff guy was telling us, none of y'all are going to get the Poison Ultima because it's too nice. Like it's such a sweet rod. I really enjoy that rod. I got to fish with it.
You and Matt went out, right?
What's that?
You and Matt?
Yeah, me and Matt went out and we got to catch some big ones. He was catching them on the spinning rod. I was catching them on I caught them on the cool baits. But they caught more than me on the spinning rod. But I caught the biggest one, I think. So yeah, cool in August.
What is it?
A glide bait in August, like
yeah.
To do what we caught them on. We got it. We were letting it sink down to like 22 foot.
Really?
Reeling it back. Yeah, it was sick. They come up and eat it on scope. That's how I like a live scope.
Yeah.
I don't like shaking the minnow. I like throwing the glides and stuff.
Where'd y'all go?
Gunnersville.
Sweet.
Yeah, so my buddy, he works for Daiwa. He's Daiwa rep, and so he came down there also. So Matt did half a day with me and half a day with him, and then the Shimano rep for Tennessee, Daniel Holt, he fished with me, and me and Daniel caught over 25 pounds, and him and Jackson caught over 25 pounds. So it was like a great day for the Poison Ultima and
definitely
the worms. So
yeah, that's sweet.
It was a fun time for sure.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. What makes the Poison Ultima better than the Poison Adrena?
So you got a different blank altogether. So it's a completely different blank. It's got better guides, and then the handle on it. You got an axe handle. Basically, it's rather than like your hand conforming to a circular color, circular shaped rod, it is flat on the sides, so it basically transmits bites better. So it's more sensitive. It's lighter. It's more of a bottom contact rod is what they're marketing it as, but I got the 610 medium. It's a little bit stiffer than the 610 medium X Pride or Adrena, but it's a sick jerkbait rod. For fish, it was cool. I caught during that Riders Conference, we went down there and I caught over 40 fish on jerkbait fish. I was live scoping with a jerkbait in Florida. Not during normally that's like not that crazy. You go down there and jerkbait fish on like grass clumps and stuff out in the middle of the lake.
Yeah,
I was catching them jerkbait fishing in 2 foot of water on lily pads.
Really?
I caught like over 40. It was so sick. That's
wild.
something that you follow though. It's a little sneak deal. You can catch them in jerkbait on pads. But
man,
that's one of the weird things I tell Logan. He's like, "You're an idiot." But
what about the opens? Like, how was your overall experience? Like, how much have you learned fishing the opens against so much better guys? Like, how has that helped you going like into the future?
It's helped me a lot just because nothing to take away from the elite guys, but I feel like at least with the live scope stuff, I feel like they're a few months behind a lot of the guys in the opens because the opens guys get a lot of time to play with it. Because I think there's just some younger guys in the field that are like really, really good with it.
So do you think live scope shortens the learning curve?
Yeah, for sure. I think it can, but like if you're if you're just going down a pocket and you see a dot and throw out and catch it, and you're like, oh, that was cool, but don't realize why he was there and stuff. I think it's like important to retain like why he was there and think why he was there rather than just casting at dots. Because you can, with live scope, you can do that. Like you can just pick a drop shot in your hand and become like an absolute menace, like casting at everything. And you're going to catch a lot of stuff that are not bass, but you're going to legit catch a ton of fish doing that. But at the same time, figuring out why that fish was there and how I can duplicate that around the lake is a big deal. But back to what I was saying, I feel like this is. I just feel like a lot of the younger guys get to play with it a lot more. To do it, there's definitely guys on the elites that are on a way better level fishing wise.
With overall,
overall, and they just may have not been able to like experiment with it in a tournament situation like that.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's now like what we saw with because nobody on the elites was complaining about live scope at the beginning of the season until it started getting won that way. And that's like how the opens have been like even last year too, and then this year it's like all that type of stuff. So I don't know. That's my opinion. Probably get some hate for that, but I don't know.
Keeping it real though.
Yeah, and then I think what was the question again?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember.
Something with the opens. But yeah, it's just.
Oh yeah, just talk about the opens.
It's definitely cutthroat. It's the wild west. There's been, and the thing about us too this year is like we've gone to places that fish kind of small. Like Wheeler, there was a bunch of like, people fishing on top of each other, conversations, people cussing each other out on the water. Like,
yeah,
I remember my first open. I was fishing a shell bar in practice, and it wasn't even like a shell bar that was like in a good. It was like in a super sneaky place, like where a shell bar probably shouldn't be. It was like in the back of this backwater, but it had running water in it. And this dude sees me fishing it, and then just idles up to me, puts a trolling motor down, and I could literally spit in his boat if I wanted to, and never said hello or anything. And then I was still. This is my first tournament of the year, and I like didn't know what to say.
Was that this year or like your first?
That was the first one. Yeah, first one I ever fished.
Oh man.
And then the second tournament I ever fished, I had an Elite Series guy just pull in right in front of me. Like I was going down the bank and literally pulling at Cherokee within like a short cast flip of my boat, cut me off on the bank and start going down the bank the same way I was. And so like I feel like there's not like a whole bunch of respect, I guess, in the opens.
Yeah. Like it's like I'm out here trying to make it just as much as you. Like I don't really care about you.
The dude was he's like, I'm making the classic right away, and then that same guy was doing some sketchy stuff in the classic too this year. So I mean, it's like just like I'm gonna remember your number. You know what I mean? Like like I'm gonna be nice to everybody and do whatever, but if you do something to me, I'm gonna do it to you. Like that's the biggest thing is like that first tournament in Florida, I didn't know what to do. I'd never been in that situation. He was an older dude, like thought he was kind of entitled to what I was fishing, I guess. Well, that second tournament, I had Bassmaster guy with me, Thomas Abraham, who does the podcast for Bassmaster podcast, I guess. But
yeah,
I did the whole like told him put his life jacket on type deal. And idled up to that dude. Put my trolling motor down.
Yeah.
Just I'm not gonna let you walk all over me, but that's just kind of how it is. And then like I straight up now I probably looking back probably not a good thing to do. Like would not suggest to do that for any of the kids listening, but like straight up just tell them how it is and put those old guys in their place when they do it because they think they can walk all over you, and they can't. Like just straight up, they think they're entitled. A lot of them are, and you just got to make sure that they know who's big dog.
Gotta tell them who's the big dog.
Yeah.
I'll listen to another podcast. KVD was talking about it. I think it was Dave Mercer's podcast, and he was like, if everybody would just be courteous to other people and like just communicate, like, hey, dude, you care if I fish here? And just be like, yeah, and he'll remember that. It's like, yeah, dude, I don't care if you fish here. But like, you better let me in on a spot if you're fishing it, and I'll roll up.
Yeah, no doubt. That's kind of the unwritten rule. And then like, I don't know, even with scoping, like I heard like Zaldane's like this new generation, they put hoodie on, sunglasses on, and they just stare at scope, and then they don't care if like they're in the boat. They don't want to say hello or anything. And you know, part of that's just being dialed in on the scope. Like I've looked up and be like, oh, there's the dam.
Yeah.
But like still the same principle goes to speak, like kind of just like whatever. You can fool some people with the live scope too. It's because people are like looking at places. I don't know. I was just thinking about this year. I had a guy. I was catching him on spinnerbait at Bugs Island, and I see this dude like pull up like almost to what I was fishing, but he was like scoping just a little bit out.
Yeah.
And I pointed my boat and like acted like I was looking at my live scope. I was catching them all on the bank. He's like, "You got him?" I said, "Yes, sir."
Oh man.
Just mind games. It's funny.
Oh yeah. Gotta keep everybody on their toes.
Yeah, that's right.
My dad has a question. Do you think your new wife will support your expensive rod habits, or are you making one last tackle warehouse order the night before the wedding with your life savings?
So I got lucky on the rods with Shimano, so I got that covered. They helped me out. Shout out Shimano. But yeah, no, I will keep continuing to buy fishing tackle. She's gonna have.
What about the glide baits? That's an expensive hobby.
That is. Yeah. She doesn't know how much they cost yet.
Yeah, that's kind of how we do my mom.
She knows that. The thing about Grace is she's really good with. She's very smart with spreadsheets. So she's actually started like. So I get like a lot of product from Big Bite and a lot of stuff from Shimano and stuff. So she'll actually go in on a spreadsheet and write down what I have, and then for a tournament, and say I need to get something. She'll make sure I don't buy something I already have because I'll completely forget. Like,
yeah,
we might go to like some crazy lake. Like, let me think. We went to, and you can find like we do a lot of research on these places, but you figured out like I figured out at Watts Bar they want a double buzz bait. I found that from articles and stuff. I'm gonna buy all these double buzz baits for just this one tournament, and like I'll have this, or like at in Florida they want a June bug cherry whatever, like some just crazy, specific just to that one thing. And I'll probably have it from a few years ago that I already bought, and then like I'll go there again and be like, where is it? And I'll go to the tackle store and buy stuff I already have. So she's good about making sure that like I don't buy anything else I don't have. And then
you got like your own manager.
Yeah, for sure. She keeps me in line, but
definitely.
I've always either lived with my parents or fished out of lived on the road. So I've never had to like pay rent or anything. So this is a big change.
Definitely.
So
like a whole new turning point.
No doubt. So I got to figure out how to do all this stuff, and boat payments and entry fees and all this stuff is real life now. So
yep. Well, it sounds like you've got a good one to be there right there with you to help. Talking about turning points, what would you say is your biggest turning point in your fishing career?
So one of the biggest ones was moving to Auburn, because you had the Coosa River, you had everything. I love to fish Eufaula, but I didn't get to go down there a lot. And then living in Auburn, I got to experience basically the lakes were just that I like didn't get to fish that often, only for tournaments, were so much closer to where I actually could go like experiment and stuff. I just got to fish new lakes, and then there's so many guys on the team that were from not Alabama that I got to go. Like one of my best friends, Rob, he's from Canada.
Yeah, Rob.
He how to like do all this like crazy stuff. I won't say I taught him how to swim a jig, but we we started swimming a jig together. We started like fishing brush piles, like learning how to fish brush piles together, learn how to ledge fish, and like teach me how to like, throw a like he was a big jig flipper, and like I just get so impatient. That was another thing with life school. I've realized how like ADD I am, and realizing that my jig was never on the bottom. That's why I hated throwing a jig. I would like I would move it too much, and so I like never caught anything on a jig because it was never on the bottom. It was always just floating, dancing in the middle of the water column. And then like bunch of different guys, and then also just the first year of the opens, and then the second year, like I feel like I've learned more the first these. I think the last 3 years I've learned the most because like it was last year I was at Auburn. It was the first 2 years of the opens. I feel like I've learned more of these 3 years. And then it's different stuff every year. Like, I feel like last year I got better shallow water. Like I felt like I was good at it, but I got dialed in a little bit more.
Yeah,
It was more accurate, more efficient, and found stuff like sneakier stuff, and like stumbled upon like just really good areas and good spots, and just it was really efficient doing that. And then this year's been more on the scope and stuff for sure, and offshore oriented stuff. So
good deal. Well, we've got one more question before we wrap up. What is your? I think we might have already talked about this, but what is your all-time favorite body of water to fish?
it's probably either Eufaula or Oneida or Lake Martin. I don't know. It's up in the air. There's so many cool places. I love Gunnersville too now. Like, I really like the Alabama River too. There's so many places that are good. Like,
Yeah, Oneida's that's in New York, isn't it?
Oneida, yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll go back there, and it's a cool place because it's the reason I like Eufaula is because you can figure out what depth zone the brush is in or the schools are in, and you can run that same depth zone all over the lake and figure them out, or like the type of tree. And it might be like sometimes they're on like a oak tree that are sank near reddier sunfish bluegill beds, and that's the deal. Or they might be in brush that's in 4 foot of water, or they might go on brush that's on a flat and 15 foot of water. Like you're figuring out what type of brush they're on, and then you can run it all over the lake. And then the same thing at Oneida, it's not brush piles, but it's like, hey, they're on grass, and I can go run all the grass places. Or if they're on a rock grass transition, they're on that, and they're on every single one of those that are in 8 foot of water the entire lake. So it's like it's a northern lake. It's got gobies, it's got whatever, but it's more patternable, and you can run around a lot more rather than it being like one spot like a lot of the smallmouth stuff is.
yeah,
That's pretty cool out there. And then Martin's just kind of where I grew up fishing, so that's why I like it. So
yep. It's hard to get away from the home pond.
no, it sucks now. Like I'll probably go out there and fish, and I think it took some weight this past weekend. I think 3 for 11, which all largemouth, which is really good for out there.
Yeah,
But
that's solid anywhere.
when we went the other day, I think 6 pounds won with 5. So like,
Whoa.
yeah. So I'm gonna go out there and fish and just get ready for a tough tournament. I mean, there's a ton of fish in there, but still the same thing. Looking for places just to get bites. Like,
Yeah,
what's the best way to get bit? Because just to figure out how to get bit at Watts Bar is going to be a challenge in itself. So
yeah, definitely.
and that one's going to be a tough one too, because you're going to be trying to stay in it mentally by having to throw back 3.5 to 4 pound smallmouth that's not 18 inches. Like it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, we deal with that problem a lot. Definitely being from Tennessee.
Yeah, no doubt. So you can literally catch 17 pounds worth of fish and have 0 the tournament. Like,
Yep.
So it's insane. And catching 15-inch largemouth or spots that time of year can be tough as well. So
Yeah, for sure. Watts Bar's a tough one, but I think you'll be able to get it done.
yeah, man, for sure.
Well, we've been on here for an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm sure you have some other stuff. I mean, probably everybody's asleep by now, but thank you, Jake, for coming on and spending some time with us, spilling the juice. We're gonna keep track of you. See how you do on Watts Bar. We're hoping you make the elites, and we're definitely rooting for you.
Yeah, for sure. Will you be around for that tournament?
I might be, maybe. I'll be down that way.
All right, sounds good.
We'll go get lunch or something.
Yeah, sounds good.
I don't know. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll keep in touch.
Appreciate it, dude. See ya.
Thank you guys for coming on the podcast. Had definitely a good show with Jake, and we'll be back next week on Monday with another guest that I will post later in the week. But again, thank you so much, guys, for coming on, being active in the comments. It makes it fun, and we will see you guys next week.